It was a cold, foggy evening in Moscow. The streets were quiet, and the only sound was the distant echo of footsteps on the cobblestone roads. Detective Ivan Petrov, a tall man with sharp eyes and a thick mustache, was sitting in his small office, sipping on a cup of hot tea. Clock on the wall struck 9 p.m. when there was a sudden knock on the door. "Come in," Ivan said, setting his cup down. The door creaked open, and a young woman stepped inside. She was dressed in a long black coat, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Detective Petrov, I need your help," she said in a shaky voice. "Please, sit down," Ivan said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "What seems to be the problem?" The woman sat down and took a deep breath. "My name is Anna Volkov. My brother, Alexei, has gone missing. He was last seen 3 days ago, and I fear something terrible has happened to him." Ivan leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Tell me everything you know." Anna explained that her brother was a journalist who had been investigating a series of mysterious thefts in the city. The stolen items were rare artifacts from the Moscow Museum, and Alexei believed there was a secret group behind the crimes. "He told me he was close to uncovering the truth," Anna said, her voice breaking. "But then he disappeared. I've searched everywhere, but there's no trace of him." Ivan nodded thoughtfully. "Do you have any idea where he might have gone, or who he was meeting?" Anna hesitated for a moment before pulling out a small notebook from her bag. "This is Alexei's journal. I found it in his apartment. There's a name written here, Viktor Sokolov. I don't know who he is, but Alexei mentioned him several times." Ivan took the journal and flipped through the pages. The name Viktor Sokolov appeared multiple times, along with notes about the stolen artifacts and a location, an old warehouse by the river. "This is a good start," Ivan said, closing the journal. "I'll look into it. In the meantime, try not to worry. I'll do everything I can to find your brother." Anna thanked him and left the office, her footsteps fading into the night. Ivan sat back in his chair, staring at the journal. Something about this case felt different. He could sense that there was more to it than just a missing person. The next morning, Ivan headed to the address written in the journal, the old warehouse by the river. The building was abandoned, its windows broken and its walls covered in graffiti. Ivan cautiously pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The warehouse was dark and damp, with piles of crates and boxes scattered around. Ivan pulled out his flashlight and began to search the area. As he moved deeper into the building, he noticed a faint light coming from a room at the far end. He crept closer, his footsteps silent on the concrete floor. Peering through the crack in the door, he saw a group of men gathered around a table. They were examining a collection of ancient artifacts, the same ones that had been stolen from the museum. Ivan's heart raced as he recognized one of the men, Viktor Sokolov. He was a well-known businessman in Moscow, but Ivan had always suspected there was more to him than met the eye. Before Ivan could make a move, one of the men spotted him. "Who's there?" the man shouted, drawing a gun. Ivan quickly ducked behind a crate as bullets whizzed past him. He knew he had to act fast. Pulling out his own gun, he returned fire, taking down 2 of the men. The others scattered, running deeper into the warehouse. Ivan chased after them, his mind racing. He had to find out what they were planning and where Alexei was. As he turned a corner, he saw Viktor Sokolov trying to escape through a back door. "Stop right there, Sokolov," Ivan shouted, aiming his gun at the man. Viktor froze, his hands in the air. "You don't understand, detective," he said, a sly smile on his face. "This is bigger than you think. Where is Alexei Volkov?" Ivan demanded, stepping closer. Victor's smile faded. He's safe, for now. But if you want to see him alive, you'll let me go. Ivan's grip tightened on his gun. I'm not letting you go anywhere. Tell me where he is, or I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison. Victor hesitated, then sighed. Fine. He's in the basement. But you'll never get out of here alive. Before Ivan could react, Victor pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The warehouse was suddenly filled with the sound of alarms, and the lights began to flicker. Ivan knew he had to move quickly. He knocked Victor out with the butt of his gun and rushed to the basement. The door was locked, but a few well-placed shots from his gun broke the lock. Inside, he found Alexei tied to a chair, his face bruised but alive. Detective Petrov! Alexei exclaimed as Ivan untied him. Thank God you're here. We need to get out of here, Ivan said, helping Alexei to his feet. The place is rigged to blow. The two men ran through the warehouse, dodging falling debris and sparks from the malfunctioning lights. Just as they reached the exit, the building exploded in a ball of fire, sending them flying to the ground. Ivan groaned as he sat up, his ears ringing. He looked over at Alexei, who was coughing but otherwise unharmed. You okay? Ivan asked. Alexei nodded. Thanks to you. As the fire trucks and police arrived, Ivan explained everything to the authorities. Viktor Sokolov and his men were arrested, and the stolen artifacts were recovered. Later that evening, Ivan returned to his office, exhausted but satisfied. Anna was waiting for him, tears of relief in her eyes. Thank you, detective, she said, hugging him tightly. You saved my brother. Ivan smiled. Just doing my job. As he sat down at his desk, he couldn't help but think about Victor's words. This was bigger than he thought. But for now, the mystery was solved, and that was enough. The Moscow mystery had come to an end, or so he thought.